our guest for this week is a recently retired U.S. General Kenneth McKenzie, the former head of the U.S. Central Command. Thank you so much for joining me, sir. I would like first to hear your thoughts on Iran threats in the Red Sea.
Well, as you know, Matthias, Iran has always behaved irresponsibly at sea, in the Red Sea, in the Arabian Gulf, around the Bab el-Mandeb, and around the Strait of Hormuz. And one of the things I think we need to understand is how much of this is local commanders taking initiative into their own hands and misbehaving, and how much is centrally directed. Because we've sometimes found that local commanders, particularly in the IRGC Navy, will take actions that are not necessarily approved by higher authority, although the Iranians typically support those commanders once they've made these bold, aggressive moves. So I think we want to understand that at the very beginning as best we can.
In your 40-year career in the U.S. Army, you've always been direct. When an enemy crosses the red line, he must be punished. What should be the Central Command's response, or more precisely, of the Fifth Fleet to these Iranian maneuvers?
Well, I think we always seek to deter Iran from taking irresponsible actions against the Fifth Fleet and against our friends in the region as well. And we work cooperatively with a number of nations in the region, including Israel, as you know, to that end. But our objective remains to convince the Iranians that an aggressive, irresponsible action is not worth whatever short-term gain it may give them. That we will either deny them the opportunity to take that action through successful defense, or we will retain the option to strike back and punish them later. Those are the two kinds of deterrents that exist today, as you know. We would prefer that Iran not take these actions, that they recognize that irresponsible actions are going to have consequences, and those consequences could cost them very dearly.
And it was under your command that Israel was incorporated into CENTCOM a year after retiring. Can you say that the strategic relationship with Israel has been consolidated?
I believe the cooperation between Israel and the U.S. Central Command of the United States continues to grow. I believe the officer who succeeded me, General Eric Kurilla, has done a magnificent job moving CENTCOM along that track, working with Israel, but also working with our other partners in the region. Because ultimately what we seek is a collective approach to the problem of Iran. It's not a problem for a single nation, including the United States, including Israel. It's actually a problem for all the countries in the region that are faced by the irresponsible, reckless, dangerous actions of Iran.
Are you talking about only threatening Iran or taking concrete actions?
Well, I think what you want to do is you want to make it very clear to the Iranians through our force deployments, through our exercises, through our public messaging, and in fact, through our private messaging, that we will not tolerate, these malign attacks that occur against shipping, that can also occur against cities and civilian targets ashore, oil infrastructure, other things that they have chosen to attack in the past. We need to be very clear with them that these activities are not going to be tolerated. And that requires a integrated campaign of messaging from each nation, but also between nations to Iran.
And by the way, a recent report by Israel military intelligence claims that Iran could use its proxies to strike Israel from 5 areas simultaneously. It is realistic, in your opinion?
Well, I think as a military planner, you have to plan for the worst case. What you've just described is, of course, the worst case. And the Israeli Defense Force, I know, has good planners, and they are planning for that worst case. That would require a degree of coordination that we haven't seen yet from Iran and its proxy groups across the region. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't plan for it, because you need to plan for it. Because that, as we've said, that is in fact the worst case, the most dangerous threat that Israel could face. At the same time, I think it's a high bar for Iran to achieve that kind of coordination, because Lebanese Hezbollah, while clearly a proxy of Iran, will make their own decisions about whether or not they want to engage Israel, because they know that Israel will have the ability to inflict remarkable damage upon them should they choose such a course of action. So I don't think it's a given that Iran would be able to achieve this degree of simultaneous execution that you talk about.
By the way, you led the elimination of the Islamic State ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And I take this example because you said at that time that we must act before it is too late. Don't you think regarding Iran, it is too late to act?
Well, in the case of Baghdadi, you're right. He had sworn to attack the United States. He was a bad actor on many levels. He was responsible with blood on his hands for the deaths of so many people, including Americans, including citizens of many other countries. And so we went after him in order to prevent him from being able to carry out those attacks in the future. There's always however, Iran is a nation state. It is a much more complicated tactical problem than going after a single leader, adrift in Syria without any real support. Attacking metropolitan Iran, should Israel choose to do so, would be a significant tactical problem. And I know that Israel has the planners to consider those options. That would not be something that I think Israel would undertake lightly or without very good reason to do so.
In other words, without the consent of a cooperation of the Central U.S. Command.
I will leave that one alone. I think nation states make decisions based on, their compelling national self-interest. And Israel has always been has always taken a very clear-eyed, objective approach to how they'd make those kinds of decisions.
So it's been a year since you took off your uniform. Can you understand this new Middle East when yesterday's enemies are today's friends and vice versa?
Yeah, so I agree that the Middle East is an ever-changing mosaic right now. I'm not sure that's new. I think that, it's just the phase we're looking at right now. Relationships are changing. I think, frankly, the Abraham Accord was a great step forward in order to integrate Israel further into the theater, into the region. And I think what we call the operationalization of that, which was bringing Israel into U.S. Central Command, made that happen at more of an operational level. And what it has allowed, I think what it has given is, it has given Israel the opportunity to interact with their Arab neighbors far more significantly than they were able to do so in the past. So I think I think that's a good trajectory. Look, it's good. I don't want to oversell it. It's not going to be easy. There are going to be challenges that arise as we go down this path, but it is a path to the future that provides for a form of collective security against, again, what you've said, and I agree, is the most dangerous threat to peace in the Middle East, which is Iran, in all its many forms.
And at the same time, Saudi Arabia is getting closer to Iran, also willing to negotiate with Hezbollah. Are you concerned?
Again, nations in the region, as the rest of the globe, have to make decisions about their own security. I think Saudi Arabia and Israel have a degree of understanding about the common security arrangement and the common threat that they face, and I think that will proceed. And I don't follow what Saudi Arabia does on a daily basis. I think anything that tends to reduce the threat with Iran is a good thing. We'll see if anything actually happens as a result of the warming of the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Or is Iran actually going to take responsible action in Yemen? Or are they going to do things to prevent Houthi attacks on Saudi Arabia? All of those types of things have not yet unfolded, and I think that will give us a good understanding of what the potential warming of that relationship might actually mean in terms of realities on the ground.
During your time in command, where you were able to understand that Saudi Arabia and other countries integrated into the Central Command of the American Army were ready to cooperate militarily with Israel?
So I think, again, when Israel came into Central Command, it gave us a very good conceptual platform to speed the integration of Israel across the region, to allow other nations to reach out under the broad umbrella of Central Command, to allow military chiefs to meet, to allow ideas to be exchanged, to look again at the common problem that we all face. I think that's a very good thing, and as we close out, I am optimistic about the future in that regard.
And this will be my last question. You said that under Joe Biden, Iran will never have the nuclear bomb. Are you still sure?
So it's a policy of the United States that Iran not be allowed to possess a nuclear weapon. I don't think anything has changed to modify that policy one way or another. I would just note that as I speak to you right now, the greatest threat from Iran is not a possible future where they possess a nuclear weapon, which would take time to become a reality, but rather the fact that today, as we speak, their ballistic missile inventory, their unmanned aerial vehicle, their drone inventory, and their land attack cruise missile inventory is larger, better, and more capable than it has ever been, and in fact gives them overmatch against many of their neighbors. And some of those weapons have the capability to range metropolitan Israel as well. That should concern us most of all. That's the one thing that I believe that we need to look at very hard is the development of Iranian conventional capabilities, which I believe actually are more important day to day than some future nuclear possibility.
Thank you so much, General McKenzie, for answering my question. You were until April 2022 the head of the CENTCOM of the U.S. Army.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.